Welcome back to the Her Handmade Hustle Unplugged podcast. This is the first episode of 2024 and I'm really excited for what the year has to hold, for everything that we've got to talk about in regards to being a female entrepreneur and managing workload and life and everything else that it throws at us. We've got so much to delve into this year, which is going to help you grow your business and just move forward, which is ultimately the aim, getting you somewhere that you want to be, achieving your goals and achieving your dreams. So I wanted to start the year off with a podcast episode about a word that I hear a lot from a lot of women, whether it's, family members or it's colleagues, friends, customers even. And the word is overwhelm. And it's a feeling that a lot of women particularly feel on a daily basis, regardless, of your situation. So it doesn't matter if you're married, you're divorced, you're single, you have kids, you don't have kids, maybe you work full time, or you just have a small business to pay the bills. Whatever your situation, we all regularly face that uncomfortable feeling of overwhelm. And just that everything just feels a bit just too damn much to think about and cope with sometimes. You just feel like it's just too much going on in your brain. You've got a million tabs open and you don't know where to start. So for anyone that's on my Facebook group, Her Handmade Hustle group on Facebook, I recently posted an image of a woman, and it is a statue actually in Spain. And it's of a woman with a child, but then piled up on her back, there's just like loads of things. Like there's laundry baskets, say ironing boards, there's kids' toys, there's everything that is on her shoulders. And it's there to depict how women do feel on a daily basis, that they have the weight of the world on their shoulders. That's what they're carrying around with them all the time. All this responsibility and everything they've got to think about. And it can be frightening. You get up in the morning and you think, oh God, how am I going to get everything done? And when it comes to starting a business as well, you factor that in and it's enough to put you off ever starting. Sometimes I wake up and I just think, I can't. Like, I've had no sleep. I'm tired. I've got all this stuff to do in the house. And I've also got to turn my computer on and run a business. And it's difficult. But it's doable. And I wanted to talk about it today because I know it's something that is on a lot of women's minds when it comes to, have they got the capacity to run their own business when they've got so much other stuff going on in their lives. And really, I think from my point of view, obviously, when I talk in this podcast episode, I'm going to talk about my own experiences, as well as some family and friends and things we've chatted about, to sort of give you a general overview of my approach to the situation, how I've managed to do it. Because I have got two businesses now. I've got my stationery business and I've got my coaching business. And yeah, it's tough. It's tough because I've got a lot of other stuff going on, but so has everybody else. We've all got our own stuff to deal with in life. But I wanted to really use this episode just to tell you that it is possible and talk about the ways that we can manage this feeling of overwhelm so that we can still achieve our goals as women, people that, have put everything else on hold to help everybody else rather than ourselves. And actually, it's our turn now to put ourselves first. So we're going to delve right in and we're going to talk about overwhelm and how it can just take over your mind. Who lies awake at night with their mind racing? I am terrible for that at night time. I can be really tired sat watching TV at 9:30, 10 o'clock. My eyes are closing and I just want to go to bed. I just want to go to bed. And then I get in bed and I'm wide awake. And all of a sudden, all the thoughts start rushing in and all the worries and all the stresses and everything I've got to do the next day. And sometimes I actually get up, and I write things down and I've got a notepad next to my bed just to clear my head and get everything out of it. But we've got to try and slow those thought processes down and start prioritising so that we have got time to do things for us and to achieve our goals and so that we don't feel quite so overwhelmed. Because, you get to that point where you're so overwhelmed that you don't even bother doing it in the first place. It's just too much to even think about. And you throw in life and everything else we have to juggle alongside trying to make it as a successful entrepreneur, and it's just enough to make you run for the hills. Say some days you just say, I can't even do it. So I thought it'd be good to chat today about, how do we navigate this massive sea of responsibility that we as women deal with on a daily basis? We just get on with it, don't we? And how can we ensure that we don't push our own dreams and our own goals aside, and instead we learn how to run them alongside our responsibilities? So, whether you have young kids to care for alongside running your business, maybe you work full-time, you've got a part-time job just to keep up, to pay the bills while you're getting yourself established. Maybe you're a carer for a family member, so you've got very limited time and energy as well to put into your business, because that's a big part of it, isn't it? With Overwhelm, it's a lack of energy and how we feel. Whatever your commitments, is always going to be more of a challenge for us as women. And that's just a fact. A sad fact, because, it is. As women, sort of like the title of being a woman comes with a certain level of expectation, I feel, and assumptions from others, even if it's not intentional. Obviously, we're a lot more equal now than we've ever been, but there is still a massive gender gap when it comes to business and home and running everything all the time, being the person in charge. And we tend to shoulder a lot of the responsibility within our social circles. We're the first port of call for friends that are in need. Your female friends always come to us for advice and help, as we do to them. And thank God we've got them. Don't know what I'd do without mine. We put our family's needs way before our own. If you've got kids, you're married, your parents, if they're aging, all their needs come before ours. And we've got to remember everything that's happening in everyone's lives all the time. Birthdays, anniversaries, appointments, health checks. There's like a million things at school ask you to bring and do. Gosh, I've only got one child, and the amount of text messages that I get from the school, telling me what day we need to bring this in, what day I need to bring that in, when it's non-uniform day, when it's bring a bottle day. I can't remember them all. I've even bought myself a family planner now for the kitchen wall to try and remember everything, because it's too much, so God forbid if you've got more than one kid, how you do it. I don't know. And I generally, admittedly forget half the time. And before Christmas, I sent my little girl in on non-uniform day. And it was Christmas jumper day. That was it. And she was the only one not wearing a Christmas jumper because I forgot. It was just one of those things. And I felt awful about it. She didn't care. But, I felt absolutely awful about it. But I just can't remember everything, as a lot of people can't. There's a lot of pressure on us. The list is just endless. And our minds are constantly in overdrive. We're on this heightened awareness all the time, aren't we, of everything we've got to remember. And then we're just left with whatever energy we've got to drip feed into our own businesses and our own interests and our own hobbies. And it usually comes at 9 p.m. at night, when the day's done, kids are in bed, whatever, you've got a bit of peace. And actually, at that point, all you want to do, and you are 100% entitled to do it as well, is watch Netflix with a glass of wine and a bar of chocolate. I look forward to that time to switch off every night, because I don't get long before my kids awake again. And I need it. I need that time. So when it comes to having to focus on my business in the evening, it's a struggle. I spoke to a psychologist recently, actually, about overwhelm. And she said something that really resonated with me. We were talking about how I often struggle with just feeling like at complete capacity before the day even begins. And I struggle just finding the energy and the patience to do simple daily tasks. Like you wake up and you feel stressed and impatient. And I don't want to feel like that. And we were talking about it, and she was saying like how it's hard for myself, like, to keep up the motivation to run a small business, because I'm always at full capacity. And she had a really good analogy, and she said to me, like, we need to think of ourselves as a jug. Okay, so we should be aiming at the start of the day for the jug to be as empty as possible. Okay, and then obviously as the day goes on and we get busier, we get more involved and we go about our daily lives and things happen, the jug begins to fill up. And then at bedtime, we're expecting the jug to be full. We are, at which point we go to bed and we recharge and we wake up the next day with an empty jug again. And we're fully capable of dealing with the day ahead with plenty of capacity to hold whatever the next 12 or so hours just holds for you. That's in the ideal world, that is how it should be. In reality, it's not like that for a lot of us. And we are often at full capacity, sometimes before even the day has begun. And when she talked to me about my capacity and where it stood at that time, she was saying that my jug was almost full, if not spilling over, before my day even began. And honestly, I do feel that, if there was water in my jug, it's right up to the top with no room for any more. And it's spilling over by 10 a.m. And as a result, it's just resulting in huge mental breakdowns because you just can't operate like that, You can't be at full capacity before your day starts. It's not sustainable. And for me, my jug, the main reason for my jug being at full capacity, obviously, yes, I've got a busy life. I've got 2 businesses, I've got a child, I run a house, but it's mainly because of the lack of sleep I get with my 4-year-old. And it's had a massive impact on the last couple of years on our lives and trying to run a business and make money and stay positive. When everybody knows when you don't get sleep, it's like a form of torture, isn't it? Anyone that's suffered severe sleep deprivation knows that you just feel like you can't cope with anything. And we don't get any sleep because she suffers from eczema, and it's terrible, it's awful, and it's really been hard for us the past couple of years as it's been in sort of like its worst state. And it keeps her awake at night. Most nights she's scratching. She is very uncomfortable in her own skin, and it makes me so sad. And obviously she needs comfort, and she's waking up frequently. She's on medication, she's on creams, everything you can think of we've tried, and we're getting it under control, but we're in this habit now where she's waking up frequently. And then alongside that, she experiences night terrors, which wake her shortly after going to bed. So, I put her to bed, and then an hour and a half, 2 hours later, she's awake, crying, upset. She's had bad dreams. Sometimes she's not even aware, that I'm there. She's in this state of like a sort of caught between being conscious and unconscious, and it's quite frightening. So it requires me to sit with her and comfort her for a great portion of every night. We also have battles with separation anxiety in the day, and she has a few sensory processing issues which make the world a much scarier place for her. So she's very attached to myself, and so she does struggle at night time, and she needs me there, and I will always be there for her. She's my priority, and obviously as a mother, we don't question it. We do whatever our child needs to feel safe and to feel secure, and it's non-negotiable, so we just do it. But the long-term effects, obviously I'm talking 2 years that this has been going on, they take their toll on you. And I've just felt really overwhelmed and quite depressed about it all, that, because I never rarely get a break. So when you're not sleeping well, as we know, it makes everything so much harder to deal with. So I'm waking up with this full jug in the morning, completely full, and everything that's just been poured into it overnight, all the stress, all the worry, no sleep. So it's even overflowing before I even start my day. Who can relate to that? I bet most of women listening to this are just nodding along, and you can at least resonate to some degree with this level of overwhelm, regardless of whether or not you've got children. Because like I said, we've all got something going on in our lives that is causing our jug to reach capacity much quicker than it should be. So how do we make sure that we have enough mental and physical capacity throughout the day to sustain running our own business alongside all the other stuff that is going on in our lives? Is it doable? Is it possible? And it is. It's a good question, but it is doable and it is possible. And there are a few ways that we can do this, and we can keep our jug's capacity at the right level so that we can give ourselves time and energy to do the things that we want to do, not the things that we have to do. Because if I let my day be ruled by everything I had to do, I would just be a machine, you know? I wouldn't do anything for myself, because a woman's list is never empty. It is endless. There is always jobs to be done. So unless you physically make that time to do what you want to do, you're going to live your life doing nothing for yourself. And that's not what I want. And I've come to realise that as probably in the last 2 or 3 years, really, that it's time now for me to make sure that I've carved out that time so that I can do exactly what I want to do and make it a priority. So we're going to look at the things that I think that you can do to keep your jug at that, you know, manageable capacity. And I think the first one and the most important one is being clear on what it is that you actually do want to achieve for yourself. You know, what is your goal? What is it that's so important to you that it is non-negotiable and you need that time to work on it and make it a priority? Or at least an equal priority to other stuff, because I know that, you know, children and aging parents and health, even if you're a carer, you know, all that sort of stuff takes priority and comes first. But you can still have time for yourself. You're entitled to it. It's your life. And you must. So, you know, say that your clear goal, the thing that you want to achieve, is that you want to grow your business this year and you want to make money and you want to make it into a viable business, you know, regular sales, not just a hobby anymore. You want to be able to survive on it, and that is your income. You don't want to work for anybody else anymore. You want to give up your full-time job or your part-time job and go it alone. That's your goal. So write it down and make it real, because committing to it is the first step. Because if you don't 100% want it, you won't do it. You know, it'll get pushed to the back, because all the other stuff that we were talking about, all the other priorities, they will just like sniff out the weakness in you, and they'll rush in and they'll take its place, and they'll take your time and they'll drain your energy. But if you're dedicated to your goal, whatever it may be, you know, you don't let it get demoted in favour of what seems to be more important. You know, you're more likely to make it happen if you're dedicated to it and you're committed. So first of all, you've got to be clear on what you want, not wishy-washy. Don't do wishy-washy. That's step one. Step two is being realistic. So you know your commitments, you know your lifestyle, what it is that you're juggling and what's doable. So you have to think about how can you incorporate your goal, the thing that you want, into your life as best as possible. And you might need to make some sacrifices, because like I said before, we just can't do everything because we don't have the capacity. And if you try and do it, you will fail because you've not made that space mentally or physically to take it on. But you have to remember that, you know, you should be able to do this for you. It's your life, and it's time to make some changes to accommodate what you want and not feel guilty about it. So for me, I decided to start a second business, this coaching one, alongside running my existing stationery business, Vintage Twee. And I decided on that last year, just before my 40th birthday, last July. And, you know, I already work all hours God sends on both. You know, I do, particularly in the evenings. My daughter's in bed for the couple of hours I do get. But I also do the lion's share of the housework as well. And the cooking, you know, because I work from home. So it is easier for me to prep teas, to, you know, get everything sort of organised, do a bit of cleaning as I'm on my breaks as such. Not that I really have a break, but, you know, as I'm pottering around making a brew, I'll do a bit of washing up. So, you know, the jobs are kind of done by the time my husband gets home from work, most of the time. I'll never take out the recycling. I hate it. Like, it builds up so quickly. I don't know about anybody else, but there's only 3 of us in this house. And honestly, I am constantly at the recycle bins. It drives us both mad. So I've kind of given up doing the recycling. Bins are his thing. So everything else, you know, I do. I do the school runs as well. I tend to do most of the sort of top-up shops in the week. We'll do the food shops together at weekend if we can. Doctor's appointments, big one, you know, health appointments, general life admin, phone calls. I take it all on. And I'm bursting, as a lot of women are. And I decided, the last couple of months really, that I just can't do it anymore. Not with two businesses. Now, part of me thinks that I'm absolutely crazy. I should just stick to what I know, focus on Vintage Tree, my stationery business. However, this last year, especially when I turned 40, I realised that I just wanted more. I wanted more for myself, more for my family. And I knew that I could help lots of other women out there do what I did, which was start a business from scratch, doing something they love, making money from what was a hobby and make it into a fully fledged business. So I did make the decision to start Her Handmade Hustle last June, July, despite everything else going on in my life. And I've made room for it. And yes, it's exhausting at the moment. But it is when you start any business, and you have to be prepared for that you are going to have to make time and sacrifices. Even if you've got a business and you're trying to grow it, it is constant. You do have to be working on it all the time. At the beginning, particularly. But it does take blood, sweat and tears. It does. And if you can make room for it, for whatever it is that you want to do, even if it's not growing or starting a business, but if you can make room for it in your life, you will do it. You'll make it happen. It's like when they say, if someone messages you, say, oh, do you want to go for coffee? And you're like, oh, I can't, I'm busy, because we are busy. We've got so much going on. But if you actually really, truly wanted to see that person, 100% you would make time to do it. And I do that for my closest friends because I know time is limited, but I also know that my closest friends are very precious to me and I want to see them. So I make that effort and I make that time. So yeah, for me, I've got to change the way that I think a little bit. I've definitely become less OCD about having an organised house. The sacrifices I've had to make. Can't keep everything as tidy as I used to. I've been less bothered about losing, my weight. I want to lose some weight in the last year. Who doesn't? But I've been less bothered about that. I've relaxed a little bit about it. I've given into a ready meal once a week. I just don't have the time to cook from fresh every single night. So I've had to let go of the reins a little bit when it comes to things, like our weekly food shop. I like to normally go myself. I'm a bit like my mum was with that. I like to go, pick the best dates, Let's have a wander around, see what takes my fancy. I don't always like to plan it and book it online and get it delivered. But in order to free up a bit of time at weekends or in the evening, sometimes when my daughter was in bed, I'd go straight out to Aldi or whatever and I'd go and get the food shop. Then I get back at like 9:30 at night and then maybe have half an hour, quick shower, and then she's awake again. So I was getting no time whatsoever. So instead now we try and book it online if we can, and we get it delivered. Try and not stress about the fact if they bring us the wrong tin of tuna, so what? If they haven't brought anything, because it used to really bug me when you planned your meals and then you get an online food shop and they bring it and there's something missing and then you've got to go to the shops anyway. And that used to really annoy me. It used to put me off going, but lately it's been okay and it's not the end of the world. I can nip to the corner shop and I can get what I need. So I've sort of let go of that OCD a little bit. And it's just making these little adjustments to your daily routine so that you can fit the thing in that you want to do. And that's all you need to do. So you need to be realistic, because if you're not, you won't do it. And then you'll just end up basically believing you're not capable. And I often wake up most mornings after a night of broken sleep. I wonder how the hell I'm going to run a business, turn my computer on, deal with people. But I do it because I carve out the time to do what I need to do to make it happen. And it usually starts for me with half an hour every morning after school drop off where I just have a coffee and do nothing. And I get my head together and I wake up a bit and then I'm sort of ready for the day ahead. So that's being realistic. Step 3 in making sure that our capacity jug has room for achieving our goal and doing the thing that you want to do on a daily basis is just seeking help when you need it. And I'm admittedly terrible for this. I'm getting better, but I'm bad at it. I like to do everything on my own. So have a think about what you can either offload to someone else to free up some of your capacity, or just enlist the help of someone else, to do something that you would normally do. Just something that gives you more time, gives you more energy, gives you the space to get your thing done. So for example, say you might work full time and you've only got evenings and weekends to put into running your business. Okay, and that's true for a lot of people. I know it's really hard to run a small business when you're working as well. So maybe you've got kids as well, and weekends are taken up with hobbies, family time, appointments. Think about what it is that you need to be there for and want to be there for, and what you don't. Also, what you don't need to be there for. So, for me, my husband started taking my daughter out for a couple of hours at the weekend to soft play. Or wherever, Burger King, she likes at the moment. so I can get some work done on my business. I feel guilty. I'll come to that shortly. That's something else I wanted to touch on. But I think about how much I actually do all day, every single day, for him and for her and for everyone else. And those 2 hours on either a Saturday or a Sunday that I have that time to work on my business for me, doing the thing that I want to do, I am not going to feel guilty about. Because I always make sure that I have quality time before and after, these couple of hours that are for me. Why as women we always feel like we have to justify the time alone. We shouldn't have to, but we do. I don't know why. It's like programmed into us, and it's annoying. It annoys me. But it just seems to be part of our makeup. But if I don't make these little adjustments to carve out more time for me by asking for help when I need it, I won't do it. Or it'll take me a lot longer. It depends on how quickly you want to achieve your goal. So, if you've got grandparents available, if you've got young kids, ask them if they can look after them for a couple of hours, whatever you need. If you can afford it, this is my aim one day, hire a cleaner, whiz over your house, once a fortnight, if that's something that takes up your time. I used to love cleaning. I just find it really satisfying. But now it's such a chore because everything just gets messed up again like an hour later anyway. So I think, what's the point? But I always feel better when it's done. But if you think about it, actually, a cleaner probably costs the same. A couple of hours of cleaner probably costs the same as a takeaway, So maybe think about getting somebody in for a couple of hours, once a fortnight, once a month even, just to whiz over the rooms, bathroom, kitchen, the ones that you want to keep clean. That's going to make free up your capacity in your mind, so you don't have to think about it and you don't have to do it. I've asked friends countless times to help me with like vintage tweed orders that I'm struggling with because I've had no sleep. I've got orders due out and I'm stressed. I've got a really good friend who she passes the post office daily on her walk home from school. So if I've got orders ready, she'll whiz them in the post office for me, and that's a big help. It's little things like don't be afraid to ask people because it's usually they're happy and they're willing to help, and it's us that have got the problem with asking for help. So I'm trying to change that a little bit, and I'm trying to be a bit bolder and say, you know what, that would make my life a little bit easier if you could help me. I'd be so grateful for it. I think, what have I done this week? I've asked my dad to make me some soup for the next few days because, every spare hour that I've got when my daughter's at nursery, I am working. I don't look up, and sometimes I don't have time to eat, or I don't make time to eat, I should say. I probably have got time, but I don't make the time. So he makes me some soup, and that really helps me. I just stick it on the hob, it's done. It's a quick lunch, it's a healthy lunch, and I really appreciate it. He does a few bits of cooking for me, actually, and he helps a lot. And for me, food is a big one. You've got to eat the right things to feel good, to fuel your body, to get through the day. And I don't always have time to do it myself, so that helps me massively. So think about what you can offload or ask for help with to try and free up some of the capacity and keep your jug at the right level throughout the day. Now, I just touched on guilt there when I mentioned about having a couple of hours for me to work on my business at the weekend. And I think guilt is one of the main roadblocks to women actually achieving their goals and dreams. And I don't know why it is, but we have this constant feeling of guilt, of not being present for everyone all the time. We feel guilty about putting our own needs and desires first for a change. We feel selfish. Like, what's that about? Why do we feel selfish and think that we're a terrible wife or mother or daughter? because we just need a fraction of time to ourselves, like for ourselves, because we're human. And I'm not talking about going out and getting some time alone to wander around Tesco's and get the food shop. I'm talking about actual time to work on what it is you want to work on. You know, nothing to do with anybody else, that one thing for you. So whether it's a hobby, like I say, or you want to start a business, anything, we shouldn't feel selfish about wanting that. Now, I'm making a conscious effort this year to drop the guilt, because I know I'm a good mother. I know I put my child's needs before my own or anyone else's, you know, but I also know that I'm a good role model for her. And she sees me working in my studio. You know, sometimes it's really cute. She pretends to work with me and she'll sit at my desk and pretend to type. Totally messes up my computer, and it takes me like a day to sort out what she's done. But it's really sweet, and she sees me working, and I asked her the other day, I said, well, what are you doing? What are you working on? And she goes, oh, I'm just doing my website. It was so sweet. And I thought, she sees me do that. You know, she's 4, and it's good for her to see her mum working, knowing that I do have commitments. I'm trying to better our lives. And I found ways of entertaining her while I work, to try and get things done as well when I have to. You know, but she gets my whole attention when I am home and I'm not having to work. And she knows that I love her unconditionally, and she comes first. But the guilt is so real, and I never realised it until I became a parent, like how guilty you feel. And I told her once, actually, why mummy had to work, because she was saying to me, well, when have you finished? When have you finished, mummy? I want you to play with me. And I'd only been doing like half an hour of some emails. I'd give her some Play-Doh to do at the desk as I was working. But, you know, she was just relentlessly tugging on me saying, you know, mummy, have you finished? Have you finished? And I tried to explain to her why I couldn't play at that exact time. And she broke my heart with a reply. And what I actually said to her was that mummy's trying to work really hard because I want more than anything one day to take you to Disneyland. And I want to save up as much money as I can. And I want to take us all there. The 3 of us, I want us to have an amazing time. Meet all your princesses. She absolutely loves princesses. I said, and that's what my goal is. And that's why mummy has to work. We need to earn some money to be able to go on holiday, because we've not had a decent holiday in a while. And that was my aim for this year. And she looked at me and she said to me, but mummy, I don't want to go to Disneyland. I just want to play with you. And it absolutely broke my heart. And I thought, oh my God, you know, she is not bothered about the things that we are striving for, that we want, these experiences we want to give them. And it's us that wants to do that. We want to create these memories, but actually she just wants her mom to play with her. That's all she wants. She couldn't care less about anything else. And at that moment, you know, I just felt so guilty. And I thought, well, it was only half an hour of work that I was doing. And of course, I've been playing with her before, I was playing with her after. But it really got to me and it stuck with me. But this made me realise that we do need to drop this guilt, because everything that we do, whether it's for us or it's for other people, it comes from a place of love, and it's ultimately for the greater good. So whether it's to fund a holiday that you can't afford if you're working extra hours, or, you know, you're working hard starting a business, or maybe you're just trying to have or enjoy a better lifestyle, whatever your motivation is, it's deep rooted in the greater good and the bigger picture. So when we feel this invasion of guilt creeping in, we've got to remind ourselves that we are not selfish, and we are in fact investing in ourselves and a lifestyle that we want, and one that we can thrive in to the benefit of everyone around us. You know, the reason I work for myself is so that I'm flexible, that I can take my daughter to school and pick her up, and if she's poorly, one phone call, I can drop everything, I'm there. You know, I can go and see her in her school plays. And that's why I do it. And that's why I'm determined to make it work. No matter what I do, even when I'm feeling unsure and I'm worried and I'm scared that I'm not making any money this month and nobody's interested in, and nobody wants to buy my things or invest in themselves, like, I worry. But I keep pushing through it because my motivation is really strong. And people always say to me, how do you find the time? How do you find the time and not feel overwhelmed? Well, I do feel overwhelmed, but I do find the time. And I do that by dialing back on the things that I don't want to do anymore to make time for the things that I do want to do. So there's loads of things that I just used to do all the time, day to day. I think, oh God, I don't want to do that. Whether it was meeting certain people or going certain places, it took up my time. I just don't do it anymore. I focus on what it is I want to do. So I've got that time freed up and that capacity to focus on my goals. So one more thing I did want to touch on in regards to overwhelm, and it's about managing like the 101 tasks that you face with daily when you run your own business. And I particularly find the word overwhelm is associated with social media, especially when I talk to new business owners just starting out. So I wanted to quickly just chat about this feeling of overwhelm and that social media has kind of created, especially in new business owners. Because when I started Vintage Twee, the stationery business, the social media scene was much simpler to navigate. It really wasn't the main driving force of my sales. It was helpful, but it wasn't what brought me in any money, really. And although the scene has very much changed and it has become essential to have a strong presence on social media platforms, I still honestly, truly believe that it shouldn't be the main driving force for your sales and for your business. Yes, it's a useful tool. It can be massively helpful at times, and it can get you work in front of a wider audience. But its main organic purpose is to be social. It's there in the title, social media. And that is what people come looking for when they use it, not necessarily to buy. So they're not always in that buying mindset when they're scrolling, and everything's so fleeting that they forget, they get distracted. There's so many distractions on there, and it's really hard to capture someone's interest for them to buy something. So they do see something they like when they're scrolling, and it fits exactly what they're looking for at that time, and great, they might make a purchase, or at least they might find out more about it and discover you. But on the whole, it's a money-making machine now that you need to invest in if you want to leverage the full effects of it, which isn't always possible because we don't have massive marketing budgets as small businesses. So I want you to think about trying to reduce this feeling of overwhelm that social media brings to small business owners. Trying to be on 3 or 4 different social media platforms, madly promoting your work, forget it. Focus on one and just go all in on that one. You can't be everywhere. You just can't. You're going to go insane. So like for me, I'm focusing on Facebook for one business, on Instagram for the other. Depending on what it is you do, look at your audience, where they're more likely to hang out when you make your decision. So you can reduce this overwhelm by reducing the amount of places you're trying to be at any one time. And bit of advice really from my point of view, I would say with social media, just use it to be social first and foremost, and get to know your followers and your potential customers and let them get to know you, because there are plenty of other ways to get your business out there in front of the masses, which you have to do in order to get known. And a lot of it doesn't involve social media as the main priority. So I'm going to be going into this in a lot more detail. I've got a new 4-part mini-series coming out, which is all about how to launch a creative business. And we'll be talking a lot about social media and how to leverage it, as well as other ways to get your business out there. So, if you want to know about when it's released, you can sign up for my newsletter via my website. I'll put the link in the show notes so you can find it in there. But there's also going to be a workbook to accompany the series, which will be available as soon as the podcast episodes go live. And this is aimed at everyone wanting some extra help and some extra resources to really get down to the nitty-gritty and get their business off to a flying start. So it's going to be focused on the 4 main things, the topics that we're going to be talking about in this mini-series, all key elements of how to launch a creative business. And it's going to be really focused on what you need to be clear on in order to make your business work and do it right. And it's all downloadable, which is great, so you can access it whenever you want, work through it at your own pace. And in this particular podcast series, I'm going to be having a whole episode on accessing your audience both offline and online. So we're looking at ways of getting seen outside of just social media. And I'll be sharing ways that I did it when I started my business, and I still do it now. And the accompanying workbook's also going to have some actual templates and tasks that you can use to help you get noticed, rather than just relying on social media to deliver. Because the reality is, on its own, it's unlikely that you're going to absolutely go viral and massive and everyone's going to discover you on there without anything else. Like, you have to do other stuff to get yourself noticed, and people forget about that, like going back to basics when you start a business, and they become very overwhelmed with social media and think that that's all it is. Well, it's not. There's so much more to do that can help you get established. So try not to feel overwhelmed with social media. That's what I'm trying to say. Being present on a million different platforms all at once, because it's not humanly possible. So instead, we're going to look at other ways that you can generate business and you can have a presence. And that's what I'm going to help you with over the course of this new podcast series, which will be out next month. So yes, it is totally possible to run a business when you've got a million plates spinning. You know, you just have to be focused. You've got to be determined. You've got to be purposeful, and you have to be flexible. You can make it work for you. Regardless of how much other stuff that you're juggling in your life, you should make it work for you. You know, you need to do something that is 100% truly for yourself. And you need to carve out the time in whatever shape or form it is to do it. And you need to treat it with as much priority and importance as you would as your other tasks that are there for you. You know, for me, it's as important as feeding my child and making sure she's got clean clothes. Like, I need to feed my brain, and I need to make sure that I am doing what it is that I believe I'm set out to do while I am on this planet. And I'm not going to let time pass me by, because before I know it, I'll be 50 next, and I'll be like, oh, still not done that thing that I wanted to do. Then I'll be 60, you know, God willing, hopefully I'll make it past that. But if I don't do it now, then I won't do it. So it's carving out that time. And the reality is, you know, modern day living, we've always got a million things to do. We've got a million things to juggle and be responsible for. And life is just so fast paced that it's easy to get overwhelmed, especially when you're trying to run your own business and you've got these million tabs open in your brain. So the main takeaways from this episode about how to keep your capacity jug from overflowing is, number one, be clear on what your goal is and what you really, truly want to achieve for yourself. This way, you're more likely to make it a priority. Number two, be realistic. You know what your current lifestyle and commitments are and what's physically possible for you. So be real about how much time you can give to your goal, and then make the time for it in your life. Number three, seek help when you need it. Okay? Anything that frees up some of your capacity so that you have the time and the energy and the patience to do what you want. Number four, we've got to drop the guilt. We are not selfish people, okay? We deserve to do something for ourselves, and ultimately it benefits all our loved ones around us when we're happy and we're thriving. And number five, don't let social media overwhelm you. So it's not the primary way to sell your work anyway, okay? There are plenty of other ways actually that can be more effective to get seen, which again I'll be covering in more detail next month. So focus on one social media platform and go all in on it. Don't try and be everywhere at once, or you'll end up with like this diluted marketing strategy that just gets you nowhere. And you don't want that, you know, you want to make sure that you've got this strong presence. So I hope that today's episode, at the very least, you know, made you feel that you're not alone if you're generally feeling overwhelmed, you know, with trying to run a business alongside everything else, whatever your personal circumstances might be. And I want to finish with a quote really that I actually love. It's a mixture of quotes actually. One that I read, which is to remember that the struggle is real and the juggle is real. And it's particularly true for women. And then an author called Karen Hawkins summed it up perfectly when she says, But if a woman has the strength to bear a child, she can swing a sword as well as any man. And that we can. You know, we're strong, we're smart, and we're determined. So give it all you've got and just keep striving for the life that you want. I'm going to leave it there. If you can, please rate this episode on whatever platform it is that you're listening to it on. Follow my podcast, that will be amazing, just so you know when I upload a new episode every week, and you'll also know when I upload the mini-series, which is coming in February. Thank you for listening. I hope you got something from it. I hope it's made you feel motivated and determined to achieve something for yourself and not guilty. You know, remember, you're not guilty, you're not selfish. You can do this. Thank you for listening, and have a fabulous rest of the day or night, whatever it is that you're up to. I'll see you next time.